Lesson 510 is on indirect measurement. All right, so what that is when you use the properties of similar triangles to find measurements that are difficult to measure directly. Now, what all that means is basically you're going to use similar triangles to measure things that are hard to measure because they are too large, they're too tall. All right? So shadow reckoning. Shadow reckoning is two objects in their shadows form two sides of similar triangles. So if you look at the picture, all right, the woman and her shadow are two sides of the triangle, and if you connect the top of her head to the end of her shadow together, then it forms a triangle. Same with the tree. The top of the tree towards the end of the shadow, draw a line, and it shows a triangle. I do not know why, but mathematicians love these shadow problems. Again, I do not know why, but they are everywhere. All right, it's called shadow reckoning. So, our first example here. The lead statue of the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. casts a 43.5-inch shadow, 43.5, 43 and 5/10 inch shadow. At the same time, a nearby tourist casts a 32-inch shadow. If the tourist is 64 inches tall, how tall is the lead statue? To do this, you are going to do exactly what we were talking about yesterday with the similar figures. So we are going to set up a proportion. Again, my hint, one figure, one proportion. All right, there are other ways to do it, but this is just one way that works quick and easy. So I'm going to look at the Korean War Memorial. If you look, one figure, one proportion, one ratio. I'm going to put H over 43.5. And I'm going to make that equal to, so look at H and then look at the tourist, look at the boy. What matches up, what corresponds with H? Right? That's going to be 64. And then what's going to correspond with 43.5? It's going to be 32. All right. Now, I don't see an easy way to multiply 32 by something to get 43.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to use cross multiplication. 32 times H is 32 times H, or 32H. And that's going to equal 64 times 43.5. Let's see if I can get a calculator up here. Hang on a second. All right, I was hoping I could get a calculator to pop up on the screen, but apparently I cannot. So you're just going to have to do it yourself, or trust me that 64 times 43.5 is 2,784. So 32 times H, want to solve for H, so H is being multiplied by 32, so the opposite is dividing by 32. That leaves us with 1H is equal to 87 inches. So the height of the Korean War Memorial in Washington is 87 inches. That is indirect measurement, a way to use indirect measurement, because no, we probably wouldn't have a yardstick or a ruler or a measuring tape on hand if we ever went there and looked at it. Okay? Alright, so our last example is a little bit trickier here. In the figure, triangle STU is similar to triangle VQU. Find the distance across the pond. Alright, we are given two figures, but I want you to look at those triangles. Alright, hopefully you notice that they're not exactly in corresponding positions. Alright, what you've got to try to visualize, and I know this is going to be hard for some people, you got to try and visualize this triangle. If you take this one and you kind of swing it over, all right, then they would correspond, then they would match up. And again, this is going to be a little bit harder for some people. Some people might have to get tracing paper and trace it and then turn it. But there's a couple clues that they give us here. So again, one figure, one proportion. So if we look at the smaller one, we'll just look at triangle STU. All right, I'm given 10 and I'm given 20. All right, that's a 0. So I want to write a proportion. Which side matches up to the 10? All right, if you look, one clue that they gave us was that right angle symbol, that box in the corner. Angle Q is 90 degrees and angle T is 90 degrees. If we visualize that being rotated, all right, our 10 actually measures up or corresponds with, matches up, I should have said, with 16, which means our 20 meters, if we kind of rotated that around, ST would actually match up with VQ. That's going to be our X. Again, there is not an easy way to multiply 10 by something to get 16. So if we use cross multiplication, 10x is equal to, and 20 times 16 is going to be 320. And then x is being multiplied by 10, so the opposite is dividing by 10. So 320 divided by 10 is going to give us 32, and we were talking about meters, okay? So the distance across the pond would be 32 meters. We're going to look at some problems like that where you actually have to visualize the figures turning and moving. All right, so we will talk about this then. All right.